What's up, everybody? Shawn here with another Live to Roll. We got an awesome show for you today. Doing a little bit of Spina Bifida awareness and just talking some other cool art stuff and some just fun. Anything you guys want to talk about, let us know in the chat as well. But yeah, so we're gonna have a good show for you guys today. Got our friend Jose on with us. We'll let him introduce himself in a second. I am Shawn. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 20 years ago now. And then, Bobby, you want to introduce yourself? We'll send it off to
Not,
Aaron here.
yeah, I can. Uh, Bobby Rohan, C5, C6, right along with Shawn. We're pretty similar in speed and strength, except he can transfer 10 times better than I can. Here in Southern California, of 35 years from a bicycle accident. And we're honored to bring in a new guest and someone we're meeting for the first time. And can't wait to dive into what he is doing. And I had a friend that did sculpture too, so he's doing clay sculpture, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, or you can bring us more detail. But I'd like to welcome Jose Pacheco. If you can give us a little background on you and where you're coming from.
For sure. Hi, my name is Jose Pacheco, and I was born with spina bifida. Spina bifida occulta is the type of spina bifida that I was born with. And I am a sculpture artist. I've been a sculpture artist now for 10 years, actually. But only just recently I have started getting more involved with my community. And teaching art classes here at the Hemet Art Gallery, and I also have been teaching as well with the organization EEK, which stands for Exceptionally Excited Kids,
Oh, cool.
which is a program that brings not just art activities but physical activities and social skill activities to people who are disabled. That's kids and adults. So that's what I'm about, and
Yeah,
that's what I've been doing lately.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome
that's
to hear,
really cool.
working with kids. And so tell us, give us the background, how you started with sculpting, and is it something you've kind of always, and I wouldn't use the word whittle away, but how did you get into it, and when did you find out that you
Uh,
were had a knack for it?
I'd like to joke that it all started when I ate the Play-Doh as a child. Um, but
Oh,
but I
your
was
YouTube channel.
yeah yeah. And I used to be the artsy kid in high school, and then I kind of just drifted away from it for a little while, and then I went to college and I wanted to do archaeology and study anthropology as well. And through that, I started. You had to like learn the history of things and the art history behind it all as well. And so once I got into the art history kind of stuff, I realized that I wanted to try and get my hands on some kind of art form again. And so I tried it all. I tried block printing, I tried painting, I tried watercolor color painting, gouache painting, oil painting, drawing. And it wasn't until I started clay sculpting where I really realized I had a knack for it, that I was very interested in it, and that I was most comfortable with it when it comes to failure. That if I wanted to make something and I couldn't get it quite right, I knew that I wanted to keep going. I knew that it's just clay. It's very malleable. I can always just construct something. If it doesn't go the way I want it to, I can just break it apart and take it apart and try again. And I knew that the piece would come out a little better and a little different each time. And so now, 10 years along, I've made a few sculptures. I've made a lot more mistakes, that's for sure. But I know that I know I have. It's when it comes to being an artist, I know that It's hit or miss with making some things. Oh, and that's one of my later sculptures. That's I call that one Flicka the Fox. That's what I was. That's what I named it. I
Flicka.
was. Yeah, Flicka the Fox. That's the one. And I do mostly. I call myself a, I guess, animal sculptor, and also sometimes a fantasy artist, because I like to make dragons and small little animals as well, like a rabbit. Yeah, that's one of my latest ones, my most recent ones. That one is still untitled. Sometimes I think I have a title for it, but sometimes I change some things about it. And yeah, I like doing animals and things like dragons as well. That's the craziest thing I've made so far is just some
The
dragon
dragon.
sculptures.
I think I
Yeah.
have those. I was trying to pull them up right now.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about so on your, on your rabbit. If and you said you haven't named it quite yet. Tell us a little bit about that process. Why no name at first and then a name, or do you wait until it's completely finished? That's interesting. I've never quite understood that. I've heard
Well,
that before.
when it comes to naming a sculpture, I want it to feel like it's got a personality of its own in a way. Like I try to imagine I try to imagine in my own head, what would this animal or creature sound like if they were animated, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
And what would they call themselves, or what is a name that's familiar and sounds like some animal or character that you would talk to, that you would like to talk to. And that's how I approach my sculptures. I like to think that I like to imagine that they're alive in a way,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing pushes me forward with continuing the sculpture. If I don't feel like it's got like I'm building a personality while I'm making it, then I have to maybe revise some part of the process, or maybe sometimes just completely tear it apart and start all over. So I'm like that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Um, Dragons. So you said your favorite thing is dragons.
Yeah, my favorite thing to sculpt is dragons. They are really tough to make. Um, I know I've had more failures with sculpting dragons rather than successes, but it's one of those processes as an artist where you are pushing yourself, and you're going past your comfort zone, because the process is so. You have to build the armature, then you have to build the wings with the armature, and then you start. An armature is basically wire, and then you just spin it around and you build a body form with it. And then I also use wire mesh, which is just netting but made of wire, and I build that to make the wings, and I make sure that I get the pose right, because Shawn, I sent you one of my sculptures of my dragon that's like sort of flying upright.
Wow.
That was the project that, unfortunately, once I finished it, I had to tear it apart because it was so heavy.
Oh
And
no.
the weight of a sculpture is incredibly important. This is one of my first dragons that I made that it was. I called it a success. I spent countless nights figuring it out, trying to figure it out, and trying to make sure that it wouldn't fall over because it was so darn heavy. But I made it work. But I knew once the next project was coming along that I needed the clay for it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take apart the dragon, but I'm gonna make sure that I have all these videos of it and these pictures so that I can prove that I made it, even though I look back on it and then I see all the mistakes I made, and I just cringe. You know, I
Mhm.
think that's just something that us artists we do when we see artworks past.
Hmm.
and we say, oh, I could have done that better. I could have, maybe I should have done that. You know,
And
it's I guess just part of the process.
Yeah,
and
actually,
do they? Go
uh,
ahead, Sean.
I was curious at like how long does the clay stay like malleable like that then for you, or do you have to put it in an oven to like hard to make it like a hardened sculpture?
Oh no, the clay I use different kinds of clay.
Okay.
For teaching, I use an air dry clay. For for the clay I use to make my projects, I use a plastiline clay. So you can just sculpt it, and you can put it away for years, and it'll still keep its form. As long as you don't apply direct heat to it to melt, then it'll keep its form. And you can also, I also sometimes make some things in polymer clay, which when you put in the oven, it'll become stiff, and then you can call it finished.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because I know you said like you reused the dragon clay, so I was just wondering like how that worked, like how long it was good and how long yeah, you could do something like that. Um, but that's cool. I've never
Wait,
actually really done any sculpting. I think it's really awesome. Go ahead, Bobby.
so you mentioned the kiln, and were any of those are the pictures we saw? They're all before they get fired up.
Oh no, those the ones I sent you. You don't put those in a kiln. Those are
Okay.
made out of plastiline, so it's like a waxy, oily kind of clay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the kind of clay that you don't put in a kiln. That would be like air dry clay. That would be air dry clay, but I don't use air dry clay to make my projects. I used
So
to. That's a clay that I used to start off with many years ago, but it was becoming a little messy.
yeah.
It was becoming a disastrous mess, and so I decided to go for something that didn't require so much cleanup and so much maintenance. Because when you're making something in air dry clay, you have to keep the moisture level to a proper consistency with the clay, because you have to make sure that it doesn't dry off so much. So you
Hmm.
have to keep it moisture with paper towels and all that kind of thing. And I after a while I kind of got tired of it, because sometimes I would forget. I would forget that I need to cover my sculpture up, and if I want to get back to it.
Is
And
that is that like the clay that I'm thinking of when it spins around and you pottery like
on
a
a
pot,
wheel, yeah, yeah,
and
definitely,
Okay.
you spin it with the wheel or and you
yes. I've actually never used a pottery wheel. When it comes to getting pottery wheels for people with disabilities, it's a bit of a challenge because they're quite expensive.
Are they?
So I didn't even have access to that when I was in college as
Mhm.
well. So hopefully we can see some changes when it comes to art classes and having proper equipment for people who would want to approach clay pottery, clay sculpting, things like that that require that help that would benefit from using a wheel. You don't need to use a pottery wheel to make pottery, but it helps.
Yeah.
I, I
Um,
have a go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say, actually, question about from my wife actually. If people with limited hand function took the sculpting class, do you have any tips? Like, because me and Bobby have limited hand function. Have you had very many people like that don't have full hand function take your a class, and have there been any tools, tips, anything you can there to help?
Well, I know I've had some people who have cerebral palsy, and they would only have functionality with one hand. So I would make sure that they can do at least a pinch pot, which is basically like making a cup or a bowl. And you would just make sure that they would roll up a ball, and that they could pinch with their thumb into the ball and spin it around, very gently, and have it's a very patient kind of process, and you can just keep going, and you can build it up with your hands. Um, as far as maybe tools, I'm not so sure, but I know that it is possible if you've got one hand that works better than the other. You can also use the rest of your hand. You can just
Yeah.
keep going, keep going with it,
Yeah,
and
not
you
to.
can and
Yeah.
you can
And
use some wire and put clay on the wire.
we had a great product on our show. The person that did it, it's called Easy Hold, and probably on some of those, like when I watched one of your videos with sculpting it down, like I was watching you do the
Mhm.
claw, I believe, and we could use a Easy Hold where it kind of grips it better for us, and probably everybody's different and with their disability. And speaking of that, before I wanted to ask you, it is Spinal Bifida Awareness Month, and I had wanted to ask you um, about that. But first, I wanted to say hello to Viv is in our chat. We haven't seen her in a while. Welcome, Viv. And Andrew is in the hospital, but off bed rest. So hopefully you're getting better. Definitely thinking about you each week when we see you. Seems like more and more you're getting a little bit better. Crypto Robert, what's up? I'm glad you can join us. And right now, Juan is in our chat. Welcome back, Juan. Um, just wanted to ask you if you want to tell us a little bit of people that don't know about spinal bifida. What is it, and what are how did it affect you as? And just because I know it usually affects you when you're, I believe, born. So if you want to give us a
Yes.
little history about spinal bifida and so people can have a little bit understanding about it and how it affects you.
Oh, do we? Jose freeze?
Yeah, it went dark for a second.
Might have froze for a second. We'll get him
Should
back.
I should ask that before I got
Oh,
to
here we
the
go. We're
chat.
good. We got
No,
you.
I'm back. I'm
Okay,
back.
Uh,
we're good.
Yeah. So spina bifida. I was born with spina bifida. That's when your lower spine, when you're in the womb, it's incomplete. So I was born with. There's three types of spina bifida. I was born with spina bifida occulta. So I believe that is on C5, I believe,
T5.
or yes, T5, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
T5. And how it affects you asked how it has affected me?
Well, if you can first just back up because you said three types, and if you can just let us know what the three types and what are the differences, maybe real
Oh,
quick before.
yes, spina bifida occulta is what I have, and spina bifida meningocele, that is that is the most severe type. That is the most severe type of spina bifida. That's much more higher up in the spine,
Hmm.
and I'm not uh, the first type of spina bifida, which is the less severe type. That name escapes me at the
That's okay.
moment.
That's okay.
Um, I'm not sure.
You kind of fall right in the middle, and
Yes,
uh,
I fall right in the middle of it.
yeah. And is that where your back is exposed when being born,
Yes,
or
that's
not?
when your back is exposed, and you need a surgery to close it up, and then I was also born with hydrocephalus. So that is when you have cerebral spinal fluid that builds up in your brain,
Hmm.
in the ventricles of your brain. So you need what's called a ventriculoperitoneal shunt, or VP shunt for short. So I have what's practically a catheter through my brain.
Yeah. And do all
And
three levels of spinal bifida, do they all need a shunt or just
I
um,
believe so. Yes, yes, yes. All types of spina bifida need a shunt.
Oh,
yeah, was that?
interesting. I didn't.
And and with hydrocephalus comes, of course, neurogenic bladder as well.
Yeah, that's what I figured. There was a lot of crossover with neurogenic bladder, and I don't know if you guys have neurogenic bowel or bowel issues as well, but that's spinal
Yep, I
cord
did
injury
too.
definitely. Uh,
Mhm.
Hmm.
so yeah, I know there's a
And
lot of crossover with all the disability.
and I
It,
noticed in your videos you have a wheelchair, but are you affected by your feet or feeling in how's the lower half? Do you have
I
feeling or no
I
movement?
can feel I can feel from my knees up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can feel from my knees up. And I was also born with neurogenic bladder as well. Also a neurogenic bowel as well.
Yeah.
However, at 19, I needed a surgery from a really bad from a really bad sore, and I contacted osteomyelitis,
Okay.
and it quite nearly killed me. And so I needed my colostomy bag surgery.
Okay.
So I have an ostomy as well.
Okay.
I'm in your family.
Yeah, Bobby
Awesome.
has lost me, and I don't know.
How long have you been an ostomy for?
Just 5 years out of my 35 years, so I
5 years? Awesome.
wish I did it a lot sooner, just because it just uh, time wise, it's just better, cleaner, easier for
Oh
myself.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
you don't have to deal with accessibility issues. You know, you
yeah,
can't get into a bathroom somewhere. You've got your bag. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I've had my ostomy for this December will be 14 years.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's and that's made a really positive impact on your life because I know for Bobby it's just
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
that's good.
I know. In the beginning, I was terrified. In the beginning, I was terrified. You know, you deal with your body dysmorphia issues. You know, looking at yourself, your body differently because it's changed. You know, but it all gets easier. You know, it just it gets easier because you know you start thinking about your health and how positively it affects you and all the issues that you once had before, like with neurogenic bowel that I had, and how terrible that was. And so I realized I'm finally free from all of that because of my ostomy. So I decided to keep it.
Hmm.
Oh, that's cool. That's really great.
Oh,
Yeah, I know we've
yeah,
talked about
yeah.
that several times on here. We've done plenty of bowel discussions, and yeah, I know Bobby's really been pleased with the switching over. Um, I haven't done it yet. I was close to it after using suppositories for the first like 15,
Hmm.
16 years of my injury, and they were just
Hmm.
hard on me. But I finally did find a system that works for me, the Peristine. It's kind of like a water enema system, and it works for my body pretty well. It's a lot easier just on me. So now I'm happy with that for now, but we'll see in the future. I still may eventually get one, but we'll see how that goes. But for right now, it's been a big nice change for me from the suppositories. Those would take me hours, and still I would have accidents constantly and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but anyway,
Um,
go ahead.
Unfortunately, Tom's not here because he was injured at a young age. But um, so how did that affect you as a child growing up with the disability? Unlike where Shawn and I were in our teens and early adulthood, where we had some of the childhood. How did your childhood, go as a person with a disability?
Well, when it comes to growing up with a disability with spina bifida and hydrocephalus, I in the beginning there was a lot of surgeries, and there were so many surgeries, so many doctors visits from all kinds of doctors, neurologists, urologists, physiotherapists, um, and everything else. Um, I know that I wore so many body jackets, so many leg casts because of the deformities in my ankles and my legs, and trying to walk in the beginning, and seeing some successes, and ultimately things just didn't work out so well. I was constantly in the hospital, constantly dealing with something or other, and missing a lot of school. And
Yeah.
so my parents at a young age, they just decided, okay, he's gonna stay in his wheelchair, and we want him to go to school, and we want him to be a kid as much as he can be a kid, you know. And going to school, it was it was definitely something. Because I grew up going to special ed all the way from first grade till the end of high school.
Oh wow.
Although I did take some. It was my time was split apart, so it was split apart between general education classes as well as the special ed classes that I would take. So I would always hang out with my friends in my special ed class. That's where I first got my start, I would say, with my creative side, with all the arts and crafts stuff we did. It was all incredibly so fun. I remember I remember my friends and I, we would recite, as, as odd as it may seem, we would often recite uh, animated movie scripts to each other, and as a form of me getting to know them, and and learning about them, and then we would ask each other questions. You know, who's your favorite character in this show, and what are you doing for school after school tomorrow? And we become friends.
Mhm.
And then I was very fortunate that I got to go to the same school as them all the way through high school. So I'm very grateful for that, for those friendships that I built.
That's cool.
What area
Yeah.
did you grow up in? What
Pardon?
area did you grow? What area did you grow up in?
Oh, I grew up in San Fernando.
San Fernando Valley,
Yes, San Fernando Valley.
here in California. And
Yeah.
was it accessible? Your school?
um, um, the elementary school was, and the middle school that I first went to was, but then I had to move, and then so I moved a little too far from the middle school that I was going to, so I had to go to another middle school where unfortunately there was very little accessibility for for kids who were boys, because they couldn't, they, for some reason or another, they only had facilities in a girls' bathroom,
Uh, huh.
and so there wasn't for the boys. So I was unfortunately relentlessly bullied for it.
That's hard.
Uh, yeah, and then yeah, there was this whole big thing. My parents were had to complain to the school about it, to complain to the school district about it. You know, because they were receiving funding, but they weren't putting that funding toward adding, because I wasn't the only boy who was disabled who needed those facilities.
Okay, yeah.
So I was one of six. You know, I was at least like one of six that needed those facilities. But time passed, and Fortunately, they did get those facilities, but I was already in high school when that happened.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and high school was great. High school was when I really became more open about about my disability, about being myself, really coming into my own as a person, and that was I did a lot. I did a lot in high school,
Right.
That's good. Yeah, good.
and
Awesome.
and
Um, go ahead.
oh you wanted to add, I forgot the rest of your question. Could you?
I just, more about, um, I think you pretty much answered it because it was just how your childhood and a lot of it was school. Did you have any types of activities outside of school? Any types of sports, or did you kind of just then
Yes,
start
I
getting into?
loved I loved sports. I loved basketball. I loved wheelchair basketball. Fortunately, I was very fortunate that when I was in high school, that I got my parents put me in a program. I forget the name of the program, but it was specifically for people with disabilities, and it was during the summer, and we would do all kinds of activities. We would do all kinds of physical activities, and you know what? That reminds me that I'm not sure if you guys are you guys familiar with who Judy Human is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. We know who.
Yes.
Very familiar with
I
Judy.
got I got to meet her during an event that was held there. She was there, and she was so great. She was so incredibly friendly,
Hmm.
Yeah, I met her
and
once because
it was my first time there, and I remember I'll never forget what she told me. She said, "Just forget about the reasons why you can't in life, and do the things you know that you want to, the things you can do."
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord with me because I was really young. I was in ninth grade, and I was incredibly nervous about trying things, trying swimming, trying tennis, trying archery, you know, and I was among my peers, so it was really easy to get through it. And to this day, I love basketball.
Hmm.
That's one of those sports that really stuck with me. And after that summer camp thing, um, I I got to do a I got to do practice sessions because I was like 16. So I these were adults, so they had their own basketball team, and it was just people in wheelchairs.
Where was that,
So
Jose?
this was in, I believe, Chatsworth, California.
So you were part of the Northridge Knights.
was it?
Yes, I believe that's
That's
who they were.
funny.
I got to practice with them. I got to go to their practice games where they
That
would practice among each other, and that's when I first realized how they really get down with playing wheelchair basketball. They will knock you off your wheelchair, And I thought it was the coolest thing. My parents were terrified, but I was thrilled. I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's like football. I said, but you're playing basketball, but you're knocking each other off your wheelchairs, left and right, and I loved it.
And not to bore our audience, but when was this? What years? Because and was that
Um,
camp in Cal State Northridge by any chance?
um, it was at a really big park.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you where. It was so long ago.
it was probably Chatsworth Park up on the one we originally. I started practicing with Northridge for our rugby. Because that's what Northridge Knights is, where me and Bobby both for played rugby. I still play rugby for Northridge Knights, but Bobby also did years ago.
That's
I was
great.
Yeah, I was there from the
Is it
beginning.
thing?
So
It was the
uh,
Chatsworth
Really?
Gym. Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome, man.
yeah. So you probably played
Yeah,
with guys like Derek Westfield and Greg Edwards and um, more off the top. That's off the top of my head, but you probably played with a lot of people that we know, which is great.
it was during that time when I would witness them play games when I wasn't directly practicing with them that I realized the importance of when you fall off your wheelchair, it's important to to really know how to get yourself back up. Once you get knocked down, got to get up. And
Yeah,
and and they really helped me with that. They say, okay, I'm gonna knock you over, and you got to get yourself back up. Okay, cool, I'm ready. You know,
that's
and
awesome.
and that's when I had a wheelchair that had camber on it when it was adjustable. Oh man, I love when I can get a wheelchair that has camber on it.
Yeah,
It's like
I,
it's like nothing else.
I know.
When you're rolling on your wheelchair on a I always tell people when you're rolling your wheelchair on a basketball court, it's like nothing else in the world. The way you move on it on the floor, it's incredible. There's
Yeah,
no other feeling like it.
I wish it could be like that every day, but we wouldn't be able to get through any doors.
No, I can't get through doorways.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
we can get back into your art stuff because I'm
Yeah.
Sean and I have more questions, and I guess
of course.
my first question would be uh, have you tried to sell any of them? And, do you have an end product where you're trying to think like maybe this might be something that one day I can make it a business for myself?
Uh, I've sold only a few, but I've only sold just a few of my sculptures. But yeah, that's definitely something I aspire to do it as a business and to be a sculptor in business.
Hmm.
Have you ever
Um,
been able to do any art shows yet? Like little art?
well, technically only I've done two. Um, the first one was in the San Bernardino Art Walk,
Okay.
and then also with the art gallery that I'm a part of right now is the Hemet Art Association, and we do a fundraiser for students in the community for them to go to college, and then so we also displayed us members. We displayed our artwork there, and it was a really big show. It was at the Hemet Library, a really incredibly big space. So I showcased some of my work as well there as well.
And is the end product, is that bronze? Do you bronze these?
No, I'm not too. I'm familiar with how making a bronze sculpture uh, is made, but it's quite expensive.
It's a big
The
difference.
process, yeah, it's a big difference.
Okay.
So I would rather do something like make something in polymer clay and then put it in the oven, and then it heats itself up, and then it becomes solid, and then you take it out and you're done.
Do you
I
color?
wonder.
Sorry, Sean.
No, I've never colored my pieces.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
just
I've re-
curious too. I was wondering too if, like Bobby, you might know, because I went this year to see Jesus's art at the Rancho
Mhm.
uh, art show. The Rancho Los Amigos in Downey has like a foundation. They do a big art show every year and highlight disabled artists. It's a lot of like paintings and other different style art that was there, but
Yeah.
I think they would have
that's really
pro.
great.
Yeah. I'd love to get you the information if you want to check that out. Maybe be able to take part
Definitely,
next year and show your art off to just yeah, it's just kind of a cool night to go see. So
definitely, that would be really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I believe it's in January or February.
yeah, we
Um,
actually just went like
or
it got delayed this year. I don't know if it's always, but it was like a couple months ago. Yeah, we
I was
went and saw Jesus's got some really cool paintings. He's the quadriplegic with polio, actually, and post polio, that we know from a long time ago. And he's a paint artist, but he's really talented.
Yeah. Sean, if you can make me big, I was going to show you, and this is why I thought of bronze. I don't know if you can see it in the background, but um,
Oop.
there's that Bugs Bunny on the floor, and darn it, the big wheel is kind of blocking it. But there's a big one that is so heavy, but it's called Casey at the Bat because I knew somebody that would sculpt, and those are bronze, and that's why I brought up bronze because he was well, yeah, I think he was pretty famous, and he did he did some dragons. He had a dragon where he had the claws on the legs and stuff like that. But I'll get you his name, and I don't think he's with us anymore, but you can look him up and see some of his stuff. It was pretty amazing, and he also worked with Disney, giving out awards, and they would bronze his stuff of Mickey Mouse, Fantasia work. He would do a lot of Fantasia work for Disney.
Wow,
So, yeah,
It's pretty cool.
that's
yeah.
pretty
So
cool.
I always thought you with clay it was either kelm or bronze. So I didn't know that there was this oven baked and or anything
Yeah,
like.
there's different kinds of clays. Each have their own strengths and weaknesses, I would say. It just really depends on how you want to go about coming to the end product of it, and because there's different materials you use to make a copy, and sometimes you don't need materials to make a copy. Sometimes you just have to put it in the oven and then you're done.
And
Right.
what's the best type for a beginner?
The best type of clay for a beginner, I would say, is definitely air dry clay.
Play-Doh.
Clay that uh, but Play-Doh as well.
Oh yeah.
Air dry clay definitely is great for beginners. It's because it's moist. It's you just wet it with water and you keep it moist, and then you can build things with it. You can start making slabs and coils, and hand building things like cups. And what I do with my classes is we make wall pockets. So we make slabs of clay, and then we fold it onto itself. But before we fold it onto itself, we put a doily on it, and we roll a doily on it with different designs. Or you can hand make the designs yourself with tools, and you just fold it onto itself, and then you put a hole on top of it, and then you can hang it once it dries. And you can do all kinds of decorative things with it as well.
So
That's
when
cool.
you plop down your clay, do you know like okay, I'm excited to do. I have an image in my head of a dragon. Um, uh, or do you plop it down and go, let's just see what we're gonna get, and then it becomes whatever it becomes.
Uh, well, generally, I like to start off with a plan because there's just so much to consider. I definitely have to consider the pose of the sculpture, and I have to consider the weight of it, how much clay I'm going to use, and I have to make sure that the pose is right because once the pose is there, it becomes incredibly difficult. You practically can't change the pose of your sculpture when you're in the middle of making it. So you want to make absolutely sure that it's what you want and it's the right height, it's the right length, and it's the right pose. And you want to make sure that you get everything right before you apply clay. Because I know I've definitely been in a situation where I would start building something and then I would say, oh, it's becoming too heavy. I need to move this arm, or I need to make sure that I have the sculpture sitting down instead of upright, just because I have to consider the weight of the sculpture, and I have to consider that I need to keep myself in a comfortable place when it comes to building a sculpture because I don't want anything to fall off. or anything like that.
Do you
Right.
work off pictures by any chance? Like, do you take a
I Yes, absolutely. I need reference all the time. Reference is incredibly important when you're making art. At least to me. I know some people don't like to use reference. For me, I like to have if I have a particular subject that I'm working on, I like to make sure I have different iterations of it in different poses. So that way, I can make sure, you know, what a foot looks like of a rabbit, or what the head looks when it's turned, or what the ears look like when they're back or in the front or drooping down. I have to make sure that I know what I want, and I make sure I have the reference to my side to my computer while I'm making. Or sometimes I even print out references and I hang them up above me just to make sure that I can always look at them. And the pose of the thing, it really sticks in your head while you're building it, so that way you don't focus on it so much. You're not Because I want to make sure that I'm not copying what I'm referencing.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that what I'm making comes out of me, because when it comes to making animals, there's so many different ways to make artwork of an animal, and sometimes you want to have you have creative liberty to make it your own.
Yeah,
If you want to make a rabbit that has only one eye, I mean, go for it. Or if you want to make a cyclops character, go for it.
right. So, like on your bunny, when you did the ears, do you just reference off a couple different types of ears?
Yes, yes, I absolutely do that because I want to make sure that to me, if they don't look too large, or if they don't look too small, I
Mhm.
want to make sure I want to make sure that sometimes that they have that it's looking right at me in a way, that it's attentive. It's got my attention, because
Mhm.
I try to approach a sculpture as if it were alive and looking at me, and that it was approaching me, or right next to me, as if like a sleeping dragon.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I do like that rabbit one. I think is one of my favorites that you
Oh,
sent
thank
up.
you so much.
But it just looks cool.
And I
Um,
was watching one of your videos. It looked like a Groot character. Um, uh, oh man, I think I would have to go back to it. Um, it looked more like a tree, or like it
Oh,
reminded me of.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. That one is a really old sculpture. I would very much like to approach that one again and remake it with the skill I have now, because that one was done, I would say, 5 years ago, 6 years ago,
Okay.
that I made it. I know. Sometimes I like to reapproach my pieces, and I like to give them a different approach, like a new coat of paint when I want
Yeah.
to reapproach them.
so you're not starting over. You're like adding to that project or like modifying your original one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, or sometimes I'll tear them apart and just restart them.
Huh.
Even this
Because
many years,
pardon?
even this many years later.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know I've got the pictures and the videos of myself when I made them, the original one, and if I want to, remake something, I always know that the clay is malleable, and all I have to do is just heat it up, and I can just go back to where I was, and change an approach here or there with how I made the head or the arms or the tree part of it, and give it different textures, give it a different feel of movement, that kind of thing.
Nice.
And one of my big last questions before we wrap up and talk about our sponsors, but um, I know when I work on, on something, basically, let's just say the computer, because my clay work would be, a basic stick figure, and
Hmm.
and it might look like, Bill or Gumby, or I probably couldn't even do Gumby,
I was gonna say let's do like
Oh, Gumby.
a
I
I'm
I went to I
Bobby
went to Gumby Fest.
Gummy.
I
That's
was a
awesome.
I was a volunteer. I went to Citrus College. That's when I really dove into the art world, and I volunteered for Gumby Fest, which was held by Art Gumby's son, and it was basically like a celebration of stop motion animation, and we had artists that were animators there at the college, and it was like a competition, and I was one of the volunteers that showed how how stop motion was approached and how you can get started. So it was, making a figure of Gumby, and you would move the arm ever so slightly, and take a picture, and move another part of the body ever so slightly and take a picture, and that's how stop motion animation is made. And I still have my T-shirt actually from Gumby Fest. I believe it was 2007. Wait, 2000, I think 2000, no, 2017, pardon. Yes, 2017.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
This was in 2017.
That's what Rob in the chat is all excited. He says he loves the Gumby character. My brother Jeff actually, I loved Gumby growing up. That's how I always like remember watching
Yeah.
the Gumby cartoons and stuff, the Gumby, all that stuff. But yeah, that stop motion stuff that's tedious, hard work to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely.
That is.
Yeah. It's one of those things that are incredibly tedious and hard to do, but incredibly satisfying once you see your pieces moving ever so slightly, even if it's for 5 to 10 seconds. It's incredibly rewarding. It's one of those things that are incredibly rewarding.
but my question was, I'm glad you brought that up. It made it real interesting, and I think you got Robert all excited here. We'll have to get him your contact so he can find out about this Gumby Fest. But
Yeah,
my
I do hope Gumby Fest is still around. I know that Gumby was created in Glendora, California,
Interesting.
so that's why Gumby Fest happened in Citrus College, because it's in Glendora. So they had the festival. When I was there in college, I know that it had been done for a few years. I know that they would do it once a year, and so I do hope that it's something that still happens, because it's an incredibly great um, event, and you see a lot of different artists of different kinds and showcasing their
Cool.
work, and it's incredibly great.
That's
awesome.
cool. And if you guys do want to reach out to Jose, I know we're gonna kind of get into the end to wrap stuff up, but I do have your Instagram down in the description, so and your YouTube linked that had some videos and stuff on there, I believe. So
Yes, I will be uploading new videos very, very soon. I have some edited videos that I have yet to upload. I just make sure I try to make sure that I get things on Instagram first, and sometimes for a long time
yeah, that's
I've
why I have
ignored
your
my YouTube
Instagram in there
channel.
too. Make sure
Yeah,
for that, so people can follow you, check out your videos on Instagram. I know you do have a lot
for
of cool
sure.
content on there, um, and yeah, so let's just real quick. We'll come back and let you kind of have like a final word of the show and stuff. Last whatever bit of advice for somebody maybe looking into getting at art or whatever. Honestly, you feel like sharing. But before that, we'll do a quick shout out to our sponsors and the upcoming shows we have for the week here. So let me get down here to our sponsor banner. Bobby, you want to do it? You want me to take care of it?
Got you. I got you today.
Okay,
You
go
did it
for
last week. Um, our sponsors are really great. We know them personally, Don Woods and his crew over there with Dean McCabe, who's been on our channel. Mobility Professionals. Mobility Professionals here in Southern California is your mobility need, helps you with your mobility needs especially when you're looking at getting a new wheelchair, replacement wheelchair, standing frame, and urological supplies here in Southern California. So they can come out to you, or they can come out, or you can go to them if you're close enough that it can happen either way. But mobility professionals can handle your mobility needs, as well as they have a sister company for a lot of our listeners who are across the 50 states in the United States. They have a lot of insurance companies where you can get your urological needs that is plaguing you, that your company might be not delivering on time, or you're just looking for a switch. They are someone that knows the products because they use the products and they understand what you might be going through. So check them out, both mobility professionals and urology professionals.
All that information is down below. Also, scroll down past Jose's information and everything. It's in there. Click the links. They have great customer service to help you out. So, all right. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, sponsors. Thanks, everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys. And
Absolutely.
This week,
that like button.
What's that?
I said, make sure you hit that like button.
And hit that like button. This week, I believe Tom is probably off again. I know he wasn't feeling very good right now. Wasn't able to the show. So I don't think we'll be gaming tomorrow. On Thursday, we have Wheel Girl Talk coming up with Brianna, Nikki, Ashley, Maya, and Jessica. I'm actually not sure what their topic's going to be this week, but make sure to check it out. They always have some great information and just fun talk about all kinds of stuff, disability. And then next week, Bobby is on with another Rolling Over the Hill. Bobby, Robert, and Luis talking about aging with a disability next Thursday. So make sure to tune in to that as well. And if you missed it or you wait till next month, the first of the month, we will have Rolling with the Golden Oldies coming back, which is another women with aging show. So make sure to check them out. They talked about actually employment last month, and they had some really, really good information on that. So make sure to go back and check that episode out, actually, if you're looking to start working and staying on disability or otherwise.
Yeah, Ellen Stoll is really good in that department. So check it out.
She had a ton of really good information. I was like I got to go back and take some notes on that episode because I was doing producing.
And you don't have to be a woman in the sense of the information she gave you. It's definitely for both.
Yeah, no, that was definitely for just anybody looking to get employment. All right, so that's what we got coming up here on the Live to Roll channel. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And then, Jose, what do you want to leave with the people here? Any final thing you want to share, say to anybody or to the audience?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you. I really appreciate this. I will always remember it. You can follow me on Instagram and YouTube, Facebook as well. At I Eat Clay Art. I have some. I have one Halloween project coming soon that I'm looking forward to revealing soon. Uh, Also, it's for Dia de los Muertos as well. So I'm kind of counter. It's like a project for two holidays. I'm going to call it. Um, and I'm going to be uploading new YouTube videos as well. I'm going to revive my YouTube channel as well. I'm looking forward to being much more active on social media. Uh, and I teach classes at the Hammer Art Gallery on Saturdays from 10 a.m. No, pardon me, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And um, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to. I got Leah's message. I look forward to making something for the Live to Roll show as well. So you guys can look forward to that as well. As my way of saying thank you to each and every one of you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I had one last question. Hopefully it's, we're wrapping up. Sorry, Shawn. Because I was trying to get into a question with that stick figure. But I'm thinking of, when you're working with something, how tedious it is on your shoulder, neck, back. Is it, do you have to often take breaks, stretch around?
Um, just recently, I was diagnosed with arthritis, so my hands hurt.
Oh,
uh, so I try to make sure that I take breaks, and I try to make sure that that the clay is malleable, and that I don't use the polymer clay so much because that's kind of rough on my hands. So I make sure that I use softer grade clay this time, and because there's different grades of clay that you can get all the way from very stiff to very soft. So I make sure that I work with the soft stuff sometime a little more often now, rather than before, just so it can get easier on my hands because my fingers hurt.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
clay is definitely approachable. There's many different things you can do with clay and that you can make, and it's all all you need is just a little bit of imagination, and you can make whatever it is that comes to mind.
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you so much, Jose. And make sure you stay on when we end the show so Shawn and I can wrap with you just before we actually hang up. But so stay on. We're not going to, it doesn't shut down. So
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Thanks. So, but thank you again,
Thank you so much.
everybody. Thank you, Jose, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you are subscribed, like the video, click the little bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Live to roll.